what is some helpful advice that you have for people that can help them stand out when they're trying to get considered by an AI native company to work there?
Yeah. So biggest thing is learn the terminology, which I think we've tried to do a good job on this podcast in recent episodes of kind of telling you what certain things mean, like what is RAG, how do LLMs work, like what is actually happening in the background. And depending on the position that you're interviewing for, I think most of you probably aren't going to be trying to become an ML engineer at like one of these companies. And if you are, then you probably don't need to listen to this podcast
Yeah,
anyways.
find another
But
one.
yeah, right. But, understanding conceptually what's happening and being able to speak to it in plain language, I think is really important because you will be tested to some degree in the interview process of just like, do you understand how this stuff works? And at least in my experience, because I've interviewed for people for my team at my job, which is even a little bit more technical, but my other piece of advice would be build a side project. Like actually try to create something with these tools, whether it's, using MCP to just generate something interesting, whether you want to vibe code something a little bit. Honestly, the two most impressive interviews that I've conducted were two people vibe coded like a whole UI and tried to rebuild what they thought our product was. And it was super impressive. And those were two of the most memorable interviews. And both of those people now work for us. So I'd say a side project, which we can dig a little deeper into, but those would be my two things. Understand the lingo and actually spend some time building a side project for yourself.
So, what do we mean by terminology? Right? CP basically is this thing in the world that is like a standardization way that companies make their APIs ready to be used easily by AI for agentic use cases. APIs are just the way that machines talk to each other and send information. So like that's how like you can pull information out of your CRM and put it into Tableau for a report. There's an API connection. Anytime you guys do those OAuth things, which means like when you click through Gmail and you don't read any of the details and it says you can read your whole inbox and all this stuff, it's integrating via API. That's a really important one for you to know. You all need to understand that agents are things that can actually read, write, and do things outside of being like a chatbot, right? Mistral is one we don't talk about a lot, but they're a player. DeepSeek, one we don't talk about a lot, is a player. Obviously, the big ones is Google, and they have Gemini, and then you have Anthropic, which has Claude, and you have OpenAI, which has ChatGPT. You also like don't want to call OpenAI ChatGPT. That's not the name of their company. Like these little things will show whether or not like you're plugged in and care about this stuff.